my name is Technical.McMaster, and today I want you to start thinking about what happens when you mow the lawn. So, we all have experience mowing the lawn, but what actually happens when we start the mower? What goes into it? And how does the engine run and operate? Most people know that when you pull the starter cord on the lawnmower, it just starts and then you go ahead and you just start pushing it and you are good to go. But how does the engine actually work? My father, who has owned and operated a landscaping business for the last 20 years, and I have had the privilege of working alongside him and helping repair the lawnmowers, so I have experience with this. I also have done some research and I have looked up with Briggs & Stratton. They are a manufacturing company of lawnmower engines, and I also have looked at Sears.com. Today, we are going to look at how a 4-stroke lawnmower engine works. So, we are going to do this by first looking at the main parts of the engine and each of their different functions. Next, we are going to go through what goes through the engine to make it work and function. So, there are many different parts of a lawnmower engine, but we are first just going to go through the main parts of the engine. So, there is the starter cord, which is a nylon cord which wraps around the recoil system. This is pulled, and once it is pulled hard enough, this will start the engine itself. Next, we have the recoil system, which sits on top of the engine. This helps with the starter, so that way it actually will ignite everything and get the engine going. Next, we have the carburetor. The carburetor is a crucial part. So, the carburetor of a lawnmower, this mixes the air and the fuel inside the engine, that way it can run. It also works along with the spark plug, which ignites the fuel inside the carburetor. Finally, we have the air filter. The filter, which takes out the different contaminants when the lawnmower is started, and it filters the air. And so this is to reduce the wear on your lawnmower engine, and it also improves the efficiency and the life of your lawnmower. And I found all of this information both interviewing my father and in Briggs & Stratton. Now I would like to show you a diagram of the lawnmower engine itself. So here we have our spark plug and carburetor, and then we have the pulley where everything will start. And there's some other different parts that I have discussed as well that you may be able to see. Now that we know some of the main parts of the engine and their different functions, we're going to go over how the engine actually works. First, there is the, first we're going to be looking at what is known as a 4-stroke or a 4-cylinder engine. The first part of it is called the intake stroke. So what happens in the intake stroke is after the starter cord is pulled, the air and gas will be released and they will start to mix through the carburetor. So, valves open inside the carburetor, allowing the air and fuel to mix. So, next is called the compression stroke. After the intake stroke, the intake valve then closes inside the carburetor, allowing what is called as the piston to rise all the way to the top. And this compresses the air and fuel inside the carburetor. That's why it is called the compression stroke. After that, we have the power stroke. So, because of the compression stroke, the piston is at the highest point it can be, and this will ignite the fuel, and this is done by the spark plug, which ignites a high voltage shock, and this will allow the gas to ignite, and this starts the engine itself. So, finally, we have what is called the exhaust stroke. After the power stroke, the piston then drops, allowing the exhaust to go through, and then from there you are good to go, and this happens within a matter of a few seconds. So lawnmowers are a pretty common thing. Most people know how to use it. A lot of people have probably worked summer jobs, but now you know what happens when you use your lawnmower. So they are a complex machine, and they do have a lot that goes into it. So we have gone over the different main parts of the lawnmower and their function. And then we went over how the engine works and how those each individual parts work together to make the lawnmower run. So this spring, when you break out your lawnmower from your shed, hopefully when you're pulling that starter cord, you think a little bit more about what is going into the engine itself and what the machine is actually doing. Thank you.